Alright, welcome back to Fire Force Anime Review, episode number 45. This is reviewing the 48th, and so far for right now, well, this is technically the final episode of Season 2. I'm hoping this is not the end of the series. Even though that thing says see you later at the end of the episode. Okay, the name of the episode is Signs of Upheaval. And I'm also going to talk about two newest chapters of manga, 259 and 260. Now, the chapters this one adapted from, it finished chapter 169 and went through the entirety of chapters 160, 72 to 174 and adapted a little bit of 175. They adapted roughly page 2 and about half of page 12 and half page 13. 169, it covered the pages that were skipped over from the actual chapter, and that was 169. Yeah, in case you're curious about this one, this is the Lieutenant of Company 7 being visited by Captain Hebra, and the company captain of Company 6. Yeah, this one was, I believe, previously seen back in Season 1 for the show when she healed up Shira. So, she's here just to examine him and see if there's any, possible signs of, old doppelganger stuff. She examines it, doesn't find much of anything, but there's a potential sign there. And that's it. I mean, you see her briefly. You see her kind of peek into it. You see her face. Now, this is basically true to the manga. I'm a little surprised they actually cut this thing from last week's episode and instead put it here. I thought it was quite weird, but it kind of makes sense, basically, throw it here instead of just some random scene. Have this briefly. Now, in the manga, this is only 3 pages, and yet this took up, about 1 minute of screen time. This roughly 3 pages of a chapter. Mostly everything else is just continuing from what happened with last week, Shira and Arthur basically being jumped by a cart, swung around, being hung upside down, and they say they're naked, but they're actually sort of in a loincloth to cover up their balls, which is quite decent for them, especially as there's kids around. And eventually, well, the Company 7 captains, after basically nearly fighting to the point of near exhaustion, to the point of almost blacking out, they apparently unlocked their special power to basically emit blue fire, which seems like something you see in a propane. It seems more of a lighter flame than excuse me, that Arthur would use with his sword. Also, Tomoko is here, and she's in Komodo the whole episode. She doesn't do anything, but it's great to see her here. And after they unlock it, they also see that Captain Agu is being attacked by, remember, the White Clad. Now, who this person is, as far as I know, the manga never revealed exactly who actually killed Captain Agu. It's just that looked like he was tortured to death. This feels so good. Really, man? You're bleeding. And yes, he did act this way in the manga too, so no really change with that. Eventually he's found dead by his lieutenants, and the official word is that he committed suicide. Shira later on figuring out about this, yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. Of course, we also see a flashback of something that happened probably just after a fire. Probably before Agu went crazy, before that scar went on his face, where him and one of his subordinates are mourning the death of, I think it's one of his lieutenants, one who was actually over when he was found dead. Just were at their house, basically, where they took out Inferno, and they basically pray for the person to, pray for the soul, and, then pretty much after they complete the training, they all go back, and of course Shira and Arthur have to figure out how to turn around themselves without going to the training. And then we see everyone else basically pairing that because they pretty much form an alliance with everybody now to basically hopefully take on the White Class soldiers. And briefly we see now, in case you're curious though, the one page they do take from chapter 175, one full page is basically a scene where Shao is there, and even though he's not being tortured for some reason. Yes, I even watched him wait, I thought he was basically turned to a doll. Here he's perfectly fine. Yeah, the manga never explained this either, so don't blame Studio David. I blame the manga. They're basically never about to explain this at all. Like, how in the world you went from being a doll back to an old person? Apparently, he's accepted being turned into a freaking doll for some reason, and of course we see the second pillar where she's basically just crying over something big happening, and then we go up a pillar, and then we see the moon transform into the way the moon looks in Soul Eater. Because that's what looks kind of the manga, so why not? I thought it was a very strange way to end the episode, and also see you later. As far as I can tell with that does not mean the series is over. They claim it's over, but I don't think it's over yet. Especially since there's still a lot of manga to adapt. Like, if you're curious, like, how much manga there is left to adapt, there's about 100 freaking chapters. I'm not kidding about that. I'd say almost exactly 100 chapters. Excuse me. That's pretty much what we have here. Yeah, it's a good episode. I will discuss in the following episode my final thoughts on Season 2. But first, let's talk about these two new chapters in the manga. Chapter 259, which is called, I have to look up my notes because it takes a few pages to find out exactly in this chapter, it is called Oh Fiend of Mine. That's the name of the chapter. Okay, chapter starts off where left that last chapter where Vulcan and Arthur are, well, Vulcan is seeing Arthur play an old NES. Well, Super Nintendo. And he's just playing it. Meanwhile, though, we see the two lieutenants of Company 1 battling Lieutenant Rucka. I think he's really so making a hole in his chest, like our friendship, and of course, everything he says pretty much is definitely true about him. And then it's like, oh yeah, I'm really like punch, swiping a hole in his chest. And then back to Arthur and Vulcan where they just play a video game. And we do a flashback of Lieutenant Rucka and Krem just chatting for a while, and we see one of the other lieutenants, and this is probably the same guy who used his freeze horn on him. And eventually, of course, well, they battle him for a bit, and that's where the chapter ends. The next one is basically a Fire and Ice, with a great cover image of, I don't remember his lieutenant's name, where he basically is pointing his fist in the air. It's a great cover image, and nothing really wrong with it. And Krem's basically just all blasted away. And we see one of their Kegyo, who's possibly part of Company 1, and they'll just continue to just trying to destroy Rucka, the Rucka doppelganger. They battle him, of course, he's chatting away a whole time. Good. And of course, then he's eventually vaporized, and that's it for him. And then the chapter ends. Looks like we're right back, basically, we left off at the start of last chapter, where Vulcan and Arthur are just playing the video game. And the way Vulcan's drawn here, it's like, okay, this one was really weird. Well, apparently Arthur is drawn like a little kid, and Vulcan's drawn like his big brother. I'm like, what the heck is this? And next chapter is Night King Triumphant. Okay, my opinion in these two chapters. Oh boy. Lieutenant Rucka stuff I thought was the most interesting thing with these two chapters. The whole thing with Arthur was just a big side plot, and felt very unnecessary. Like, okay, so they go back to the company headquarters, just play the video game for just a second up. I'm like, really? There's a big cataclysm going on, and you're trying to play a video game. Like, what the heck is this? Seriously. At least some of Rucka at least was interesting. I mean, that's the only thing I found that was plot driven and actually drove this plot forward. The Arthur stuff is basically nonsense. Complete utter nonsense. But what I can tell by the title next chapter, Night King Triumphant. Maybe they're going to end this crap and basically go back to basically fighting the White Clad Soldiers or something. That's what I hope, though. Also, hope Shira comes back soon, because this is just, it's like, wow. I mean, the way this arc is presented, it's like, this is supposed to be the final arc of the series. That's what it kind of look like, though. I mean, this is something we've been building toward since the debut of the White Class Soldiers. It's kind of similar with the I Midnight Sun when it debuted in Black Clover. It's like, once these guys showed up, we're building up toward the reincarnation arc, which it happened. And it felt like it was going to be the final arc of the series, but I guess that the writer's like, no, we're just going to continue for a little while. Yep. Now, as far as I can tell for Fire Force, like, aside from the fact that we had this episode today, like, there has been nothing else. But I'll discuss more about that in my final thoughts on Season 2, okay? So, until the next video, which will be that, and then be sure you're showing me the Princess F Demon, and then hopefully, case closed, okay? Just next video. Bye.